What I want to talk about is something called registered apprenticeship. And, I'm with the Healthcare Workers Training Fund. For the last 3 years, we've been working on large federal grants that place people in jobs in nursing health information with the idea that the employer gets wage reimbursement for hiring people who were long-term unemployed or underemployed. It's worked beautifully. We have phenomenal retention rates, lots of different employers participating. And last year at this time, we started saying, well, okay, the government's going to issue another round of H-1B, and it's H-1B fees that pay for this on-the-job training. Let's do another one. Let's extend our work with nurses and practical nurses and medical office people. In addition, what would you think if we added a registered apprenticeship? And Cheryl Feldman, who's our executive director, she and I kicked it around. And I said, well, I don't know. I thought the paperwork might be daunting. Then I had to get an employer that would be interested. And apprenticeship, when you hear apprenticeship, what do you think of? You think of the trades, you think of construction, like I need a plumber, I hope he has apprentices. You don't think healthcare. Well, we discovered that that's not the case. And what we're finding across the country, not so much around here, but in other places, you begin to see apprenticeship as a very viable thing. Plus, the government did issue another round. We were lucky enough to get it. And just last week, Cheryl was at the White House at an upskilling meeting, and apprenticeship's going to take off like crazy. In fact, there's another round of grants that were due today having to do with apprenticeship, $100 million. So what is it? It's an earn and learn model. And just like we had the discussion about internships, the whole idea is people may have credentials, all kinds of good personal qualities, but they don't have experience. They can't get a job. So maybe an employer would be able to give them an opportunity to start working, earn a living, and learn on the job. The way this is set up in the federal rules, the person has to spend 2,200 hours, and if you do the math, that's about 13 months in the apprenticeship mode. The thing about it that's neat is you can hire them at a wage that's below market, and then they gradually get increases as they master competencies. Also, in addition to the on-the-job learning, it might include some classroom training, which is how we set ours up. So what are we doing? We decided to do an apprenticeship for community health worker. And community health worker is an emerging occupation. A lot of the people going into it come from different backgrounds. It's something that really will take off with the healthcare reform. Shirley Moy, who is our training partner back there, has a wonderful program at Temple, which is classroom-based for this. And I then decided I would think, okay, who of my employers is progressive? Philadelphia Fight. They are terrific. They're a leader in services to the AIDS, the HIV community. They have 3 federally qualified health centers with a lot of people who are not in the hospital, they're at home, but they need follow-up. They need someone to come in and help them navigate the system, who typically is somebody from their community. And they said, great, we'll do it. And since December, we now have 3 apprentices working at Philly Fight. It's really, really good. So then, okay, you have to say, well, why would an employer want to do this? Well, there are basically several reasons. One is you read about shortages, and as I said, this is an emerging occupation. You can train somebody to your specifications. And through our work with the on-the-job training, I've had employers say to me, I want nurses right out of nursing school. I don't want people that are coming from another hospital, and I have to unlearn a lot of stuff. So train to your specs. Also, they're different cultures. Okay, you work at Penn, it's very different from working at Jefferson, just to throw out an example. Not that they're both not good. Bear me out, but very different cultures. The other thing is that, it's such a thing as structured training. We heard the story about, you go on an internship and what's my job? Well, I shoveled snow. Okay. I fortunately have had a pretty good career, but I did have one situation years ago where I came in and this, it's a big Fortune 500 company. They wanted to hire me. They were giving me a big salary and benefits and all this stock options. I come in, they had no clue what they wanted me to do. And I was like, wow, this is really bizarre. I eventually figured it out. But the point is, even if you have experienced people coming in, you've got to have a plan, all right? And in healthcare, it's easy because we have what's called a preceptorship very often in nursing and in some of the other areas. So the deal is that you know you're going to come in and get trained. You're not going to just be put at a desk or put on a floor and said, that's it. Wage savings, as I said, you do this thing where you can start below market. Employees tend to be very loyal if you've given them good training. And in healthcare, we have a lot of turnover. Why? There's a lot of demand. Also, our apprenticeship is something that has to be tied to a credential. In fact, we got this approved at the state level, which is really an offshoot of the feds, and then there's a national certificate. This is good in emerging occupations that don't have a lot of credentials. So that if you hire one of these CHWs, they're going to be able to say, look, I have completed all of this training. So it's going to mean something. And everybody wants to hire someone where they feel at least there's some chance that they know something. The other thing is that if it's part of a grant, I know we're giving Philly Fight some money to manage. They actually have somebody who is, shepherding these folks, and we were able to put them on the grant, so that was good. And then we also have an option to do on-the-job training wage reimbursement, so that it's a double gain. The reduced wage, but then also some reimbursement. What's going on here? Why is it good for the apprentice? Well, many people, as I said, lack experience. The other thing is the recognized credential, as I said. We have found that very often people who are unemployed would rather learn on the job, especially if they've been out of school for a long time, okay? They may not be academically oriented, and the deal is it's like, let me try to learn by doing something rather than just reading about it or listening to a lecture. The classroom training, though, is good for them. It gives a foundation. Also, college credit, okay? Our program at Temple has 3 college credits, and somebody might say, you know what? I want to go on. I want to get a college certificate, an associate, or a bachelor's degree. It's good because they tend to get encouragement and good supervision. Again, this is a fairly structured situation. The manager has to commit to wanting to do the training, and again, it's opportunity in high-growth professions like healthcare. Okay, what does an apprenticeship look like? It really is a lot simpler than you might think. When I first heard about it, I thought, oh my God, paperwork. Basically, you have 3 forms. You list out the competencies. What does this job require that you know how to do? There's an agreement form saying who's the name of the company and who's the person and blah, blah, blah. And then standards of apprenticeship, how are you going to structure it? Okay, there are requirements around how many supervisors you have. How many hours is it going to be? Will there be classroom training? And then, we sent these 3 forms to the state council. They looked at them. We attended a meeting. And they had no questions, they approved it, bing bang, we get a certificate, we're all set. So we now have this wonderful opportunity to up the credential level for an emerging profession. This is being done all over the country, and we actually want to do this in some additional occupations. The other thing is that it's a good idea when you're doing anything like this to document the progress, so that if there are any problems, you can work with the employee to make sure it's better, you give the feedback when things are going well. Philly Fight, as I mentioned, we have 3 of these people working. They're all doing well. Every one of them was previously unemployed. 3 different backgrounds. One was actually an international AIDS advocate, so she's very comfortable in that community. One had come to the training fund for behavioral health training. One came as a volunteer after she had been laid off from other fields, or he rather. In fact, I met him today on the subway. He was on his way to a client. They have all completed the training at Temple. They are supervised by somebody who is currently a care navigator who knows the trade, and everybody's on the path to a new career. It's a win, 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 win. Thank you very much.